Today we have Lara and Skip. We're filming at Quixote Ranch Farm. Still deciding on the name, but it's a really cool getaway that they have in Poma Valley, right near Palomar Mountain. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about what you guys do here and what kind of activities you have here on this ranch?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you go ahead, babe?
So we bought the farm 3 years ago and quickly realized farming was very difficult. So what we opted to do was pivot pretty quickly to something that we had been doing already as superhosts, which was hospitality. And so now we host 3 farm stays here at the farm. We've invited, over 100 people in the last 2 years to come and stay, and it's been a phenomenal experience sharing this beautiful place with everybody that comes to stay.
So cool. So what are the activities? You have the farming aspect, and then you have the hospitality. So what kind of things do you guys farm here?
So our main crop is avocados, and we have those up on the hillside. And then we also have, like Lara said, citrus. We have grapefruits, oranges, and lemons. And then we also planted a small stone fruit grove with a variety of plums, peaches, and even some apples, and nectarines and so forth, apricots. And other than that, we have our family raised bed gardens where we grow our salads. And in terms of other activities beyond the farming adventures, we are always building new places for guests to have experiences. One of the first things we built was the horse area. We built a horse area for 4 horses. We rescued 3 horses, and then sort of, spent some time getting our arms around caring for 3 large animals. We recently built a farm stand, which is really for all of our guests who come and stay. We have had so many guests. I think that we've had actually close to 200 stays, and nobody comes here by themselves. So that's, somewhere between 300, 400, 500 people. In addition, we also do these events called U-Picks, where we invite people to come out on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday morning. People come with their family. Oftentimes we'll bring a lunch, and they'll buy one of our Quixote bags, and they'll go and pick citrus from our orchard and just enjoy the day being on the farm. I think probably the most important thing for us in this whole endeavor is we're trying to create an environment to help people sort of, get reconnected with each other and with nature. For us, we also are able to connect with God here. It's just a really wonderful, beautiful, tranquil environment. And we love to share it with people.
Well, I'm thankful to be one of the people who you've shared it with.
Of course.
And this is our second time back at the ranch. And I remember the first time we came, just wandering through the field through the grove with our son playing guitar, letting him pick lemons at 14 months old. It was just so cool. And we live in the hustle and bustle Pacific Beach near downtown San Diego, so we crave seeing the green. San Diego's kind of a desert, so it's, we're searching constantly for those areas where we can find that kind of lush feeling, and you guys have created that here. I have noticed it's gotten a little bit browner since we came in the spring, but still the trees are awesome, and there's plenty of citrus to be picked even at this point in the season. So
I might be biased, but I feel like our oranges are just the best ever.
Amazing, and we've been picking them, putting them in the fridge overnight, and then juicing them. You have the juicers
so
available
good.
in your Airbnbs here. It's just so awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. We've had people come and do the U-Pick, and then if they're not local, they ask me to ship them. So I've shipped them to Hilton Head, South Carolina. I've shipped them to Michigan. I've shipped them to Hawaii.
Lake Tahoe.
All over. Yeah, it's incredible. So it's kind of fun. And then we run the farm stays kind of like a proper bed and breakfast where people have the option to order breakfast, or we even do dinners. I wanted to kind of recreate something from my childhood, because my parents, we lived in Spain when I was a little girl, and we would just hop in my dad's Alfa and tool around the countryside and stay in these little country inns, and I had the best memories of doing things like that. So that's what I wanted to recreate here, and I feel like it's happening. It's really cool.
Yeah, people love it. One really unique thing you mentioned about the greenery, a unique thing about this particular valley, when we were sort of hunting for a place to land, similar to you, we didn't want to end up in a dry brown place. We were looking for year-round green. And
you were looking everywhere.
We looked. We were just in California, but all over. We
Up
were
and down the coast.
Yeah, we were as far as Carmel.
Yeah.
Anyway, water is so expensive in California. You can't pay. Nobody can pay for enough water to keep things green. And so when we found this valley, which is unique because all the other valleys around this valley are brown. They're typical sort of Southern California.
Yeah.
And we found that this particular valley, Palma Valley, is a unique valley because it has a natural water aquifer underground that waters everything. As a matter of fact, we learned after we got here that the word Palma is from an Indian language, and the word Palma means the bringer of water. And so I think just the proximity, here we have the Palomar Mountains right in our backyard. Our property actually abuts to the wilderness preserve. And so I think that the mountains and combined with the ocean breezes we get from Oceanside create this beautiful, naturally green valley. And it's as brown as it's ever going to be right now, and it's very, very extremely green.
Yeah, we're filming in the dead of summer right now.
Exactly.
But also, I think one of the most beautiful things of this is sometimes you would travel, like you mentioned Tuscany, you'd have to travel, 12 hours and then drive to get there. Even in Napa, you're way outside of the city. Here, we're just an hour away from San Diego. It's such a nice little sanctuary, just so easy to get to for people like me who are, still in the hustle and bustle, trying to, build the net worth to access opportunities like this full time.
Right.
But able to just get taste of it, it's really a treat. So you mentioned the aquifer. I'm actually working on some I sell apartment buildings, so I'm working on some properties closer to the 78 freeway right now. But
awesome.
One of them has 2 wells on it.
Yes.
But I noticed that they did mention, and the neighbors are talking about that there's a saline level.
Correct.
Is that cause issues with?
The water tables change pretty dramatically, and here our water is really, really good. Again, our well is, it's almost 1,300 feet deep. It's like 1,296
really
feet deep.
Yeah.
Because you're higher up, so you probably
have to go deeper, yes, and we're on the side of the mountain, but we get great water. Trees in general, especially avocado trees, do not like saline. They don't like salt water.
Really?
If we get exposure to a lot of salt, we have to water the trees excessively to kind of push the salt down into the ground and not negatively affect the trees. So thankfully our water here is wonderful, and
plus we have a very small
anything.
municipal water district that is really great about draining anything that might cause contaminants. So that's kind of
So they test it and they're constantly making decisions on how to regulate it so it stays
exactly cool. And it's pretty small, so I think they have the ability to do that. So
very cool. So I mean, coming from a real estate background and then just diving into a farm, was it like hitting a wall? What was maybe one of the biggest mistakes you made, and how did you overcome it?
That's a good description.
Well, I think for me it didn't feel so much like a wall. It has felt a little bit more like a roller coaster. So, we tried to do our due diligence. We came from a little beach town in Orange County, and at one point we planted a vineyard in our tiny, tract home front yard. It's still there to this day, only one of 2 in all of Newport Beach. And so we would do unique things, but definitely wouldn't consider ourselves, farmers, and even struggled with raising vegetables on our raised bed in the backyard in Orange County. And so we really came in pretty blind. We did our best to do our due diligence. We hired professionals that would advise us. And so we had, like a 5-year, a 10-year, a 15-year forecast that would map out the business side of farming and would map out the investments we would have to make and what we could anticipate in terms of income. And so we jumped in.
And they were all wrong.
Yeah, we jumped in completely excited. We did everything everybody told us to do, and we spent all the money that anyone told us to spend, and then it just really fell flat, and we learned why farming is so difficult and why so many farms are failing. The the costs just so far outweighed the income. And so the one thing we have learned how to do best in farming is to lose money. We're really, really good at that.
We're great at that.
And so we've been, like Lara said earlier, we've been trying to figure out how to pivot to, to make it work. And we have ideas. We've tried different things. The thing that has worked best for us is what we really knew best, which was the hospitality side. That's working the best.
Yep.
Yeah.
And short-term vacation rentals is something we've been doing for 10 years, I think.
Yeah, more than
so it's something we know and we actually really love.
We
So
do.
It made sense.
How are you implementing the short-term vacation rentals here? You have, I know the barn where we're staying right now has an upstairs, and then also this.
The cottage.
This is a new cottage or newer?
The cottage is actually the first one we opened here, and the barn was the second.
That's right.
And the minute we opened them, we've had great feedback. It's been awesome.
On the cottage alone, we've had more than, and not everybody does a review. We don't necessarily count, but we have over 100 5-star reviews in a row. And so we probably had 130 or 140 stays there alone. So we're doubling down on that. We just purchased the adjacent property, which has a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and a pool. It's in completely horrible shape, which is just how we like it.
Yeah.
So we will fix that up. That'll be the fourth. And then we also have invested in some luxury tents. And these tents are, huge, and each one's 360 square feet interior.
Oh, wow.
We have
It's
4. It's massive.
Like a yurt, like a circle tent?
Well,
it's like a rectangle, more like a safari style.
Okay,
safari
Yeah,
style.
I think Ralph Lauren.
Exactly. We've had.
We won't say no. I know, that's right, our
We've had
dog.
one bear sighting and one mountain lion sighting.
Yeah.
But we're going to dive into luxury glamping.
That's awesome.
And so we're going to set those up. And the nice thing is, we have a very large property. It's almost 140 acres, but the main living area is a little bit under 30 acres, and it's sort of our more flat area. And so everybody in that space can have complete privacy from each other, but it's an easy walk to access. For instance, the new farm stand that we built. Now we'll have a couple of pools and the horses are right there. We're going to expand our horse facilities, and then once we do that, we'll move the horses to the larger facility, and then sort of bring in some really fun smaller animals, alpacas, donkeys.
Like a baby mini cow.
Yeah,
Maybe
something like that.
goats or sheep or something.
sheep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So then it's going to be more fun for our guests to be able to interact with those animals, and of course we're only going to take really friendly animals like our horses and our dog. Everybody loves people, and so, literally people can interact with our large and small animals, and we're going to continue that.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. Well, that's really exciting. So on the, I want to go back to just when you purchased the ranch, because, you guys did value add flipping properties for years, and that's like a lot of the people watching this podcast, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or are interested in. But like getting a ranch, what does value add look like in a ranch? Like, are the trees dying? Are the water systems failing? What kind of things did you look at this thing that needed someone with your creativity to step in
Absolutely.
and fix?
Well, our whole life has been basically, real estate 101. You buy in the best neighborhood you can afford, the worst house.
Worst house. Every time.
We started 30 years ago with, an earthquake fixer from the Sherman Oaks quake. And flipped that and rolled that money into the next property and lived in it while we flipped it. So it was more of a floop than a flip, because it was a couple years. And so then again, this property was unattended for probably about 7 years. The trees were in terrible condition. The homes were not livable. We had to come in and completely...
Every single one.
Yeah. Every single one.
The barn... You'd be surprised.
Was the barn actually livable at the time?
No.
Or was it,
no.
Was it 4 people?
It was
originally for horses.
Yeah, it was built for horses, and it was partially converted probably 10 years before we got here.
And then the raccoons moved in.
And so it had, it had some 2x4s in the walls. It had some rough plumbing and rough electrical, and so it was a project that was started, but yes, it was left to the animals and
the
storage
cottage was according to the real estate agent, uninhabitable.
Yes, it was
So
originally a manufactured
it was
home.
just appalling.
Yeah.
I think one of our guys opened up the ceiling and a snake fell on his head.
Well, you guys are comfortable with the structure stuff. The
Totally.
stuff that was
Absolutely.
new was,
Yes.
was the ranch stuff. So
Correct.
Trees that are not maintained. What does that
Yes.
mean? What do you have to
Basically,
do to
that
fix
means,
that?
and
Yeah.
the reason they look this good now is because that means if a tree's not maintained, then it will have a lot of dead wood on it, and the dead wood invites bugs and infestation pests, and it also invites disease. And so trees that aren't maintained, they look bad and they also feel bad. They can't produce as much fruit. The fruit's not as good. So we came in and we had trees that were probably the citrus only I'm talking about now. The same problem with avocados, but on a different scale. Citrus, of which we have maybe 13, 14, 1,500 trees. They're all maybe 20 feet tall, and we cut them down to about 6 feet. And we
Right.
cut all of the infected areas, all of the dead wood, and then it took about 2 years, and they're now beautiful, and they're now about maybe almost 10 feet tall.
And they're just the right height, which we didn't plan on having U-picks at the beginning when we
Right.
first did the pruning, but now it's really
If
ideal.
you're gonna, I was
is.
thinking about that yesterday. I said, well, man, these trees are all perfect for even my baby.
Right.
I know.
Exactly.
It's pretty
You
cool,
know?
huh?
Yeah.
How that worked
Whereas,
out.
whereas, if it was when you bought the place.
Yeah, like
None of
those
us
trees
would be
right
able to
there.
access
I don't know if you can see those
can't see 'em in
super
the-
woodsy trees.
Yeah,
Well,
right next to us.
that's
here.
what they all looked like.
And then I
Yes.
see you kept the one in front of the cottage a little.
We
little
did.
bigger, just
Yes,
good
a little
ambiance
privacy,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, and more privacy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then we had to do the same thing. So after and still we have some more trees that we do need to trim on the citrus side. We probably have another 80 trees yet to go. And we've kind of done it, you have to do it at a certain time of the year. So we did the orange trees the first year, the lemon trees the second year, and this is the year for our grapefruit trees. And then the avocados, we have thousands of those trees, so we can't possibly do all of them at the same time. So we do, a little bit at a time. But they were similarly overgrown, uncared for. We have had that situation pretty much with everything. All the houses needed work, all the trees needed work, the water systems needed work, even the roads. We have miles of paved roads, which is wonderful until you learn if they're private roads and you're now responsible to maintain them. How difficult it is,
Oh, right, yeah.
and how expensive it is to
Yeah.
maintain paved roads everywhere. So
Most people don't, and then you just.
that's right.
Oh yeah, it becomes a dirt road pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we're doing is we're constantly looking for any road crews doing work on any roads nearby and asking them for the asphalt grindings or any leftover asphalt. So the area around the barn, all that asphalt has come from local work.
Just leftover.
Leftover.
That's awesome.
They love to dump it here because it costs them
Gives
money.
them the service too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it costs them money to dump it somewhere else. So, it's just looking for every way we can upgrade over time.
Yeah, and save
Yeah.
money in the process by
Exactly.
talking to the locals who are already doing work.
Exactly.
Pretty
I think a lot of people want to come in and just have everything be perfect immediately. And obviously, if you have millions of dollars, sure, you can do that. Good,
Yeah.
knock yourself out. But we don't, And so we're just taking it project by project
But
and,
that's
and
how
being
everybody
patient.
in
Yeah.
this space operates, even with apartment buildings.
Right.
You could rent it, you could vacate the whole thing and make no income.
Correct.
Or you could unit
Exactly.
by
Unit
unit,
by
people move
unit.
out, you know.
Yeah,
So
bit by
it's
bit.
about just doing it right. Yeah.
And talk about
How-
our
how do we do
1031
that time?
exchanges and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's what I do all the time.
Yeah.
I talk to people every day. So I love these conversations because I find that, I can cold calling is kind of, as a broker, that's what
Yes.
we do, especially in apartments. But I have these conversations with 100 people, or I can have the conversation once and then share it with 100 people.
That's
and
right.
it's just like
true.
scaling it. It's great.
I like that.
And also everybody, this is like kind of the dream. A lot of people have,
Yeah.
including myself and my wife.
Yes.
We, like you guys, are in a place where we live right by the beach and we love it. Life
Yeah.
is amazing, but we do really miss that green.
Yes.
I think long term we're going to want to be in a place that's like this, that has
Yes.
the nature
Space.
component, because we want to raise our kids and our family
Yes.
in a place that we can be more connected to nature.
Absolutely.
And I'd actually love for us, and Lara would be the lead on this, to talk about that for our family. Because a lot of the reason that we made this move was our aging parents and bringing
Yeah.
our entire family together and all of that. So
Well, I think,
it'd be fun for us. to
our
talk
family we've always been the couple in the family that hosts, not because we have to, but because that's just kind of how it's worked
And we've
out.
had the space.
We've had the
for it.
space, and so.
You enjoy it?
Oh, we do. Absolutely.
Well, you guys are really good at it.
No, you're sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. You cook amazing meals.
Oh,
and
she's so
you guys
good.
really know how to create these experiences. You take pride in it. You can really
Thank
tell.
you.
There's all these little details that go into, creating these really peaceful spaces.
Yeah. I joke that I get to live in a wonderful restaurant because she's such a good cook.
Yeah.
I think that in this day and age, especially, post-COVID, everyone is sort of in recovery mode, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. We realized how kind of starving a lot of people were to have time in nature. It's a real need for people to get grounded and have time with their families in a quiet space. Other than my whining dog.
Oh, it's your dog? Yeah.
We have another little dog down there.
Is there a cow over there?
She's really
very
elderly.
old. She's deaf and blind. Well, she's almost 18. And
I don't know how old
so
she is.
sometimes she just sits there and goes. Sometimes Lara's mother does the same.
But anyway, yeah. So it's funny how we didn't know what we didn't know when we came here, and then we realized, oh, this is meeting a need for a lot of people. And what I love is that it's inspiring a lot of people.
Yeah.
I always tell people, we didn't start out with crazy amounts of money. We just worked our asses off.
We started out with nothing.
Yeah, less than nothing. And, debt from school. You do all the things that you think you're supposed to do, and then you realize, okay, well, maybe I have to shift if I actually do want to, get ahead in this world. And so that meant working a couple jobs for a long time.
For decades.
Yeah, maybe
Sounds
3 jobs.
Just reading the little stories that you have in the Airbnbs for residents to read a little bit more about your background. I was reading through that. It sounds like you have your specialties, but real estate
Correct.
has always been kind of like
Yes, our
something
joint.
that you've maintained through that whole process, and maybe a vehicle to kind of compound whatever savings you've had
Correct.
to get to this stage.
Yeah.
How has that evolved from day one to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we realized after 32 years of marriage is that life. If you're blessed to live a long life, you can do a lot, and you don't have to do everything all at once. In terms of our involvement in real estate, we always wanted to be property owners, and we are not people that came from money or were given money. But we always just had that as a priority. And so we just would sacrifice kind of everything to be able to get into the next house. We even did that a month and a half ago. We bought the adjacent property. It's another 13 acres with another house and a pool. And we cleaned ourselves out to get it. We did everything we could to get it. And it'll be now, a year or two of struggle to remodel that really horrific house and get it into kind of our business model. But that's been our mode.
Yeah.
If we wanted to get into a property and, we had to sell a car, we sold the car. Whatever we had to do, we scrimped and
Delayed
saved
gratification.
and pushed. And then, of course, like Lara said, we always lived in our remodels, which,
That's tough.
It can be.
I don't know that so what I will say is it was worth it, but it was also a pretty steep cost.
Yes.
And I don't know that it's a lifestyle that everyone can do.
That's
Yeah.
a daily stress.
It
It's a
does.
daily
It
stress,
does.
especially when you're raising children. Our joke
Right.
was our kids got really good at living in rubble.
Right.
But for me as a young mom,
Yeah.
don't recommend it.
Well, I would say that there's ways to do it without doing that, but
Yes.
you guys
Yes.
were very aggressive.
Very
on-
aggressive.
A little bit
on
scrappy.
Trying to,
Yes.
and I know what you mean by, doing whatever you can, and it's funny because you finally get a little bit of cash reserves, like maybe
Yes.
you sell your crop, and
Yes.
you're like, wow, hey, we have a couple $100,000 here, and then it's all gone in the next property. Like,
That's right.
Instead of saying, oh, maybe we should buy a boat, maybe we should treat ourselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's gone again, which is
Correct.
inevitably kind of a good thing because when you don't have access to it, you don't think about what the stupid
Exactly.
stuff you can spend it
That's
on. You-
true.
Yeah.
That's
It
true.
ends up just keep going back in and
Yeah.
compounding over time.
And fortunately,
Yeah.
and couples need to figure it out for themselves, but fortunately for us, neither of us have ever been into spending money on stuff. You know, we
both had family members, like for example, parents that didn't really spend wisely, and I feel like that we had to kind of learn the hard way. You know, we had fathers that inherited money, but weren't able to pass it on to us.
Right.
And so while we grew up without money, we did grow up with the understanding that you're really more of a steward of whatever money you have for the next generation. So it's not about us. It's not about what we want. And, you know, obviously we got what we want, but it was a long process to get there.
And you sacrificed a lot of experiences in your younger years so that you could have this great, you know, I guess forever home later.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think the only thing that I was really I felt really strongly about was that we would make travel a priority with our kids, because I actually think it's really important for American kids especially to get out and see the world, and not necessarily travel luxury style. You know, we would stay in hostels and, you know, small inns and things like that, but I feel like it's really valuable to take your kids abroad and show them the world and show them how other people live and think, so you have sort of more of a broader mindset. And that absolutely informed how we did the houses as well, stylistically, you know, all kinds of ways.
Well, you definitely have these European accents and styles that you've implemented, but I don't know what you're talking about. Everybody can just learn about the different cultures from the news these days.
Yeah, that's a great source.
Yeah, our kids,
TV broke a couple weeks ago, and we haven't missed it at all. It's been great.
Yeah, and so our kids, they grew up being able to travel the world. They had each been to, I don't know, maybe 30 countries before they were teenagers, and
wow,
that that sort of came back to bite us a little bit in the end, because our son, you know, went to university in France and then graduate school in the UK and hasn't been around in the US much since he turned 18. But
so he left you guys in the dust.
a little bit. But he lives in places that are wonderful to go visit, and and both of our kids, they're both because Lara was born in Australia, they're both pursuing Australian passports now, so that they can have access to visas in other countries that they can't get as U.S. citizens, so they'll be dual citizens.
Focus in real estate, I'm sure you've had encounters with bad business.
Yeah.
I've seen it time and time again with brokers misrepresenting clients or just not representing clients at all. What does good business mean to you guys at this stage in your life?
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
No, I'm letting you go first.
So I just have a service mindset. I think because my first job was at Nordstrom's, and so they kind of really get you to think it's so much. Yeah, I think to a degree the customer's always right, but I season that with reason, because you can kind of go above and beyond caring for the person that you're serving, whatever capacity that is, and there's a reason there. So just having a mindset of whatever it takes to a degree to fix issues that come up, especially with hospitality.
Where do you draw the line? Because I feel like sometimes there's just a customer who's not going to be happy no matter what.
That is absolutely true.
Absolutely true. But they're very, very rare.
They are extremely rare. I mean, I feel like you'd have to kind of be a jerk to come here and not be happy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I always remember that when I see someone that's unhappy, that something else is going on underneath the surface. We've tried to create an environment that we would want to go to. So I feel like I have a pretty high standard.
But it does hurt a little bit when you pour your love and everything into it, and then the person's unhappy or doesn't appreciate it, and you're like, it's kind of like a little. How do you handle that, or does that ever happen?
It does hurt. It has happened. Not.
I don't think it's happened here.
Yeah, I don't know. We had one guest that it was probably our first
one
guest.
Of our very first guests.
And they were all bent out of shape that we didn't have filtered water.
Well, and they came
Or water bottles.
Yeah, and they
were
came
from Texas. I don't know.
They came from far away, and they wanted to be in a lot of different areas of the broader San Diego and even Riverside County, and so this wasn't the best choice for them because we were a little bit too remote. They wanted to run to SeaWorld one day. They wanted to run to Temecula Winery one day. But that honestly, I don't think we've had a bad experience.
I feel like I just try to do whatever I can to make them happy, keeping in the back of my head that maybe there's something underlying and validating them in their unhappiness. And I always remember that SNL sketch that Adam Sandler did with Romano Tours. Just Google
If you're
it.
not happy here, you're not going to be happy in Italy. We can take you to Italy, but we can't change your life.
Yeah, it's so good. We can, take you on a hike, but we can't make you like hiking. It's just,
I think for me,
Hedging against bad experience.
exactly.
I think for me, and Lara really explained it well, but just in a few words, good business is caring for people. That's how I would say it.
Listening and caring and validating.
And I think that's the biggest thing. It's just empathy.
I agree.
Because, I've had experiences with just psychopaths who have zero empathy.
Absolutely.
And they've stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm
absolutely.
That's terrible.
like, how? Like,
Right.
And then in that
there are psychopaths,
in that same sentence, asked me to go to the gym.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, what is wrong with
Right,
you?
right,
right,
And there's people like that.
Yes.
And I thought
There are
that was,
people like
I
that.
came into the business very naive
Yes.
to that and just really thinking everybody's a good person.
I think
Like
we
I am.
still think that a little bit.
You do, but you get
to a
jaded
fault.
all
But
the time.
Yeah.
there are definitely those
see-
people, and I
yeah.
think psychopath is the right phrase because it's a disconnect between what is
Correct.
good and acceptable and right and moral and ethical, and there's a mindset. Well, like it's just business,
No.
and I'm
It's
like that's
step on you like an ant,
Correct.
and then ask to hang out. Like it's there's something wrong.
There's something off.
there's a lot of mental illness.
But that exists in all industries.
Of course.
Does that exist at all in the farming industry?
I have not found that in the farming industry. I think partly because farming is so difficult. Farmers tend to be, for the most part, upright folks because they're just working, 17-hour days.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have found that not everybody is honest. There's as avocado growers, there's a lot of concern over the packing houses that we send our avocados to because you pack up thousands of pounds of fruit and then, you get reports that you only gave, like thousands of pounds less than you actually gave, and then they size each piece of fruit and you're primarily always giving small fruit even though you're picking large fruit. So there are things, of course, where you get taken advantage of in ways that you can't. And then we have a lot of theft. That's not by farmers, but we have, avocado's a valuable crop, and people sneak in and
It's the
steal
only
the
federally
fruit.
protected crop.
Yeah.
So it's a federal crime to steal avocados
But it
because it's so
happens.
valuable, and it happens, and it's happened to us, and it's been really shocking.
Do you feel
Especially
like it's just private parties, or do you feel like it's organized crime?
I mean, the rumor
We have
mill.
no proof of what it is.
Yeah, the rumor mill is
But
all
there's
over
lots
the
of-
place. There's a lot of
lots of
talk
things.
about organized crime.
Lots of theories, exactly.
At the scale that it happens, it seems like it's very, I'm just going to say it's very organized at the scale that it happens.
Especially given that you have security measures in place, and it's still.
Well, we've been building security measures, so that's
we
part
had
of our learning.
some. We didn't have enough, apparently.
Yeah, that's part of the learning. We've put in, now 8 or 10 gates, and now that the gates are finished, next thing is, and of course, everything you do, you have to find money for, and so everything is a bit of a challenge. But the next phase
to
is
make sure that
fencing.
it's going to pencil out.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
To continue.
So, but I would say for the most part, we've been pretty unscathed with unethical people, bad business practices. I mean, they've been very few and far between in our experience.
I would just say we just are trying to weigh what we know now. I
Correct.
think that the challenge is we are total novices, and we aren't. I mean, we were when we came in, rather.
Right.
And you can talk to all the farmers in the area that you want, but the fact is they have proprietary knowledge, and they're not just going to give you their list of proprietary knowledge.
'cause
They're
that's
just
their
not.
competitive advantage.
Exactly. And so it's just being cognizant of making quality friends with people that know, and maybe you can develop a knowledge, a base of, trust where they'll share with you to a degree, but then you ultimately have to kind of go through trial and error.
Yeah, experience. That's
What is the biggest challenge that you guys are facing now that in your business that you're trying to overcome that maybe you could use some help from? Who knows? Maybe one of my listeners might have an idea for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like you to weigh in, but I'm just going to say one of the things I started saying immediately when we got here is that everything breaks all the time. And so, if you have to rely on one thing, you better have two of those. So, like we have 3 tractors, we have multiple of everything. So sort of my humor side is everything breaks all the time, and we always need help fixing things. But I think that the bigger thing that we're looking at for the future is really how to become break even and maybe potentially profitable in the farming enterprise. And so one of the things we're most excited about is, and we don't know anything about this yet, is looking into the avocado oil business. And instead of selling our avocados to packing houses, to be able to set up, we have a house we can use for this, set up an avocado oil press.
Ones that you guys are trying to overcome.
I think just labor and water are the biggest issues. I think we have amazing guys that we work, but Skip has to leave to do construction projects to pay our guys, so we're not in a mode yet where we can just be self-sustaining here on the farm.
Yeah.
So paying for our labor, and then our water is our biggest cost. We do have one well, but we still have to pay 50 cents on the dollar for that water. I will tell people if they buy a farm, make sure that their water is free, because apparently that happens in some cases at some farms.
Wow.
It's not unusual, but it's
50 cents per gallon is...
It's better.
Well, I
It's
guess
better.
cheaper
The
than
ironic
most
thing
water.
is that we have a stream and a waterfall on our property. We can't touch that water because we don't have access to any water rights except for what falls
Water
from the
rights are
sky.
everything.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big deal.
No,
So I'd
we
say,
know that.
Yeah, I would say, and labor, like we've done different things. I ran a man camp for a while where we would have guys who just wanted to come and work, and so I thought about doing that, but that's that
Oh,
turned
and then
out not to be very
we've
effective.
been advertising for avocado U-Picks because we thought, how fun would that be for people to have that experience? And we drive them up in our ranch
Yeah.
vehicle, and it's better than Indiana Jones at Disneyland.
Oh, yeah.
Crickets. Crickets.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe we need marketing,
Probably
better
some
I
marketing.
think you do. Well, hopefully
Yeah.
we can help you out with
That'd be great.
some exposure on this. So you have a couple products that you sell.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So we have bees on the property, and obviously hundreds of orange trees. And I'm a marmalade fanatic.
Oh yeah, I love your marmalade with these scones in the morning.
So good.
So good. So I make jam and honey, or the bees make the honey, and then I use citrus, and I use that in the granola that I make. And then I've partnered with a local apothecary who has goats, and she makes goat milk lotion and candles and soap. And we'll be putting all that stuff in our farm shop when it opens. We're going to call it our little tienda, and that'll be here on the farm. And I hope to have that open probably within the summer.
And right now she has everything available online for purchase.
How can our listeners find your shop and then learn more about your ranch?
Awesome. Yeah, QuixoteFarm.com has everything you need on there. It has
spell that?
QUIXOTE farm.com.
Okay, cool. We'll put it in the show notes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah, Quixote Farm, it has even the stays, the farm goods, the experiences, everything all on that one site.
and pretty soon it'll have your luxury tents.
Yes.
Luxury glamping.
That's right.
Exactly.
Glamping.
Glamping.
I know. People are really excited about that. We need to get that going.
Awesome, awesome. Well,
Thank you, Alexio.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for being on the show. Thank you guys for listening. Please be sure to check out QuixoteFarm.com. The link is in the show notes, and you can experience this for yourself. And they have a couple add-ons. I highly recommend doing the charcuterie board for Sunset up on Avocado Road. And also, Lara here is an amazing cook, so if you want to add that on as well, the dinners are just fantastic. So thank you for listening, guys, and thank you guys for coming up on the
Thank
show.
you. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Alexia.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. That was fun.